Some sports are good for the heart, and some surprisingly do more harm than good. And it's not only till recently that I discovered I have a heart problem that this was actually a thing. And what caught me really off guard and what really surprised me is that there's actually a sport that I need to really stay away from and avoid. And it's a sport that I really never expected. So in this video, I'm gonna be letting you know what sport that is and why it is so. Coming right up. So I have to say, it's quite stupid that now I'm starting to start jogging when it's really cold. I have no idea why I wore shorts. I should have worn jogging pants. It's really a bit too cold. Hell, it's what to do. Fitness waits for no one. Wait, maybe it does. Hey guys and gals, Aman here. You're watching Heart Limits. So on first thought, when I found out I had heart disease, first thing that ran into my mind was, oh my, I'm gonna have lots of changes that I need to do. Lots of stuff that I need to give up on, but in some way it's also an opportunity for me to discover new things. Given that I am a sports-minded person, I wanted to ask my doctor. So, what sports do you think should I avoid? You know, can I still play football? Can I still do certain things? And the funny thing is, the doctor responded with a statement. It's not really a statement, rather it's a question. Well, what do you think? What sports do you think can you no longer do? And at first thought, I was thinking, you know, those sports that require you to test either your endurance or to test your strength. And for endurance, I had the idea of, you know, running marathons, you know, being a triathlete, doing long distance bike trips, doing long distance swimming, even rowing came into my mind, and even those long distance ski trips as well. And for the test of strength, here I was thinking, I guess, you know, those really high contact sports like rugby or American football, and maybe even weightlifting. But to my surprise, my doctor told me, well, those things do apply as well, but there is one sport that I have to say that you shouldn't really do. And for me, I was like, wait, I kind of said the things which I believe would be, and it's not any of those? Like, how is that possible? So I asked him, what sport is that? And he told me, unexpectedly, he said squash. And when he said squash, I was like, wait, squash? Why squash? Wait, you mean I should stop eating the vegetable squash? Or you mean the sport squash? It doesn't make sense. And the doctor said the sport, well, squash is good for you to eat, but not to do as a sport. So I was really confused, and I was like, what about tennis or racquetball or ping pong? You know, doesn't it fall under the same group? It's technically still kind of a racket sport. And he's like, in the motion, in some way, there are similarities, but for some reason, he emphasized on the idea that with squash, it's a different case. And he didn't really explain more into detail. Problem is, I'm in France, and he was explaining most of it in French. So for me to absorb all the details, I'm not that good in French, but I'm trying my best to get there. So while I was trying to process it, I was like, okay, I guess I need to research more about this and ask some English-speaking doctors. So I did that, and I found out some things which are rather quite interesting. So if you don't have any heart problem, squash was even named Forbes' healthiest sport. And for me, I'm like, wait, if it is Forbes' healthiest sport, then why is it so taxing for the heart? Doesn't it mean if it's a healthy sport, it should be good for you even though you have heart problem? As I dug deeper, I found out that by doing this sport, squash, it actually requires you to have a decent shape of your heart. Wait, it sounded weird. It's like as if I'm asking your heart should be shaped like a triangle or a circle. No, what I mean is your heart is healthy. Apparently, squash works out 80% of your maximum heart rate. Not only that, it actually burns around 517 calories in just 30 minutes. Imagine that, just 30 minutes. And the thing is with squash, as I dug more and more deeper, that's what I've been doing most in this video, just showing you how much deeper I actually went. What I found out is that it requires a certain form of anaerobic endurance. What happens is your body requires a certain amount of oxygen, and with it being constantly used during the whole duration of the game, there is some form of shortage of oxygen. And as our bodies are rather quite interesting and amazing, they actually try their best to adapt even though there is a lack of oxygen. What the body does is that it taps energy from areas where it's stored elsewhere. And of course, as a result, is actually quite dangerous and rather quite taxing on a person who has heart disease. So keep in mind, even though squash is named the Forbes healthiest sport, it's good for people who don't have a heart problem, and it's good for people who have somewhat a good shape of their heart, or rather the healthy heart. So if you do have a heart problem, do keep in mind this is really taxing. And if you really still do want to play squash, I guess you can still play it if you don't do it competitively. You just do it, at a really slow pace, because after all, almost all sports, when you do it in an extreme and in a competitive way, is really dangerous whenever you have a heart problem. So once again, Aman here, you're watching Heart Limits. I hope this video, opens up some insight into what sports you can and cannot do. And I hope that if you do plan on getting into squash, I hope that your heart's in a good shape, or at least you train it to be in a good shape. And if you have a heart problem, I hope that if possible, maybe, try to just stay away from squash altogether. I don't mean the vegetable, okay? Not the vegetable. Eat the vegetable is good. Alright? So, see ya.